It's the evening of March 23, 2019. The Viking Sky, a luxury cruise ship carrying 1,373 passengers and crew, is sailing off the coast of Norway. Most of the people on board are retirees on a 12-day voyage to see the Northern Lights. Then, at 2 p.m., every single engine on the ship goes dead at once. No power, no propulsion, no steering, and the ship is drifting, in a storm, toward a stretch of coastline so dangerous that sailors have a name for it: Hustadvika, the graveyard of ships. This is the true story of what actually happens when a cruise ship loses power in open water, and why it's far more terrifying than most people realize. Cruise ships look unsinkable. They're floating cities. Thousands of tons of steel, multiple backup systems, redundant engines. The assumption most passengers make is simple. A ship this big, this modern, can't just stop working. But the Viking Sky wasn't some aging vessel. It had been delivered less than 2 years earlier, built to the highest modern specifications. And that's exactly what made what happened next so alarming. The ship had left port with one of its 4 diesel generators already out of service, a detail passengers never knew. Under international maritime safety rules, a ship is required to carry enough power redundancy to keep moving even if one system fails. Viking Sky no longer had that redundancy. It was sailing with a smaller safety margin than regulations actually called for. Then the weather turned. As the storm intensified, waves reaching almost 26 feet began slamming into the hull. The ship began to roll harder than usual. And that rolling motion did something nobody had planned for. Deep inside the engine room, the ship's diesel engines rely on oil sump tanks, reservoirs that keep a constant supply of lubricating oil flowing to the moving parts inside each engine. Under calm conditions, that oil sits where it should. But as the ship tilted violently from side to side, the oil sloshed away from the pickup points. For a few critical seconds, the engines were starved of lubrication. The ship's automatic safety systems did exactly what they were designed to do. When they detected dangerously low oil pressure, they shut the engines down immediately to prevent catastrophic internal damage. The problem is, all 4 engines failed within moments of each other. In an instant, the Viking Sky, a 47,800-ton vessel, became nothing more than a steel hull at the mercy of the sea. Most people imagine a power failure as the lights flickering off. On a ship in a storm, it's something else entirely. Without engines, there's no propulsion, meaning the crew can no longer point the bow into the waves. A ship is designed to take rough seas head-on. Without that control, the Viking Sky began rolling broadside to the swells, listing so sharply that furniture, glassware, and ceiling panels broke loose and crashed across the decks. Passengers described being thrown from their seats. Some were injured simply trying to hold on. And behind the chaos inside, there was a second, much quieter danger building outside. With no power and no anchor yet deployed, the ship was drifting directly toward the rocky shoreline of Hustadvika. This is the part most documentaries skip over, but it's the most important. Losing power on a cruise ship isn't really about the ship sinking. It's about losing the ability to steer away from danger. The crew managed to drop anchor, which bought them time by slowing the drift. But anchoring in a storm with waves that powerful is its own gamble. There's no guarantee the anchor will hold. And if it doesn't, the ship continues, drifting toward the rocks with nothing to stop it. Investigators later calculated just how close it came. The Viking Sky drifted to within about 100 meters of the rocky seabed, less than the length of the ship itself, before crew managed to restart one engine and regain partial control. 100 meters. That's the entire margin between engine failure and a hull-piercing grounding, with over 300 people on board. With the situation still critical, the captain made the call that no cruise captain wants to make: evacuate by helicopter, in a storm, at night. This is one of the most dangerous rescue operations in maritime aviation. Helicopters can't land on a rolling listing ship, so each passenger had to be lifted individually, one at a time, on a winch cable, while the ship pitched beneath them and rotor wash whipped the deck. 5 helicopters worked through the night, hovering over a moving target in high winds, plucking passengers off the deck one by one. In total, 479 people were airlifted to safety before conditions allowed the operation to pause. It took 39 minutes of emergency procedures before the crew successfully restarted enough propulsion to regain control of the ship. A sequence of actions investigators later noted the engineering crew had never specifically practiced for, because a full blackout without backup power simply wasn't something they drilled. Modern cruise ships are required to be able to self-rescue, to keep moving under their own power even after losing one major system. That's the entire point of redundancy. But the official investigation into the Viking Sky found something sobering. The design of the engine oil tanks didn't fully account for how much a ship can tilt in severe weather. It technically didn't meet the safety standard meant to guarantee lubrication even under extreme list and motion, a flaw that had likely existed since the ship was built, invisible until the exact wrong storm, at the exact wrong moment, exposed it. It's a reminder that on a vessel this complex, catastrophe doesn't usually come from one big failure. It comes from a small, overlooked detail: an oil tank, a missing backup generator, lining up with the worst possible conditions at the worst possible time. The Viking Sky eventually made it to port under its own power, towed the final stretch by tugboats. No lives were lost. 20 people sustained injuries. It could have been one of the worst maritime disasters in modern history. And the only thing standing between frightening story and catastrophe was about 100 meters of open water. Cruise ships are built to handle almost anything the ocean throws at them. But almost anything isn't everything. And when the engines stop, for a few minutes, a 4,800-ton ship becomes exactly what it was always going to be without power. Just a very large object, completely at the mercy of the sea.